Contrary to what you might see on some social media platforms, cash is not king. Shops do not have to accept cash if they don't want to. And shops can just choose whatever form of payment they accept. And if they do accept cash, they can accept what kind of cash. For example, they can turn down £50 notes. In fact, the government website that hosts petitions had more than one petition just recently, and one of which said, make it unlawful for shops to refuse cash payments. Now, if you're not familiar with this petition website, if a petition gets more than 10,000 signatures, the government will respond to it. If it gets more than 100,000 signatures, then there'll be a consideration of a debate in Parliament about it. Now, this one such petition about cash and the proposal to make it unlawful for shops to refuse cash payments, the government responded in quite some detail. Short version, no. Long version, still no. So the government said the government does not plan to mandate cash acceptance. Businesses are able to choose the forms of payment they accept. The government's proposals for legislation support cash acceptance. The long version, as usual, there's always a long version. The government does not plan to mandate cash acceptance. Whilst the government recognises the ability to transact in cash remains important to millions of people across the UK, particularly those in vulnerable groups, it remains the choice of individual businesses as to whether they accept or decline any form of payment, including cash or card. This may be based on factors such as customer preference and cost. Nonetheless, the government wants to ensure that people, including those with characteristics of vulnerability, have appropriate access to banking services, which includes payment services. The government works closely together with regulators and stakeholders from the public, private and third sectors. Regarding cash specifically, the government engages closely with financial regulators, including through Treasury-chaired Joint Authorities Cash Strategy Group, to monitor and access trends relating to cash. In addition, all service providers are bound under the Equality Act 2010 to make reasonable adjustments where necessary in the way they deliver their services. Just pausing on that note, if someone were to have a disability that a business needs to cater for and make reasonable adjustments for that might require some form of payment of cash, the business would be required to do so. And likewise, the reverse for card payments and so on. Reading on. An important aspect of supporting cash acceptance by businesses is to ensure businesses have access to deposit facilities within reasonable distances. At budget in March 2020, the government committed to legislate to protect access to cash in the UK. Following this, the government brought forward a consultation on access to cash in July 21. The consultation sought views on legislative proposals to make sure people only need to travel reasonable distances to pay in or take out cash. The government's proposals support the continued use of cash in people's daily lives and help to enable businesses to continue accepting cash by ensuring they can access deposit facilities. The government has carefully considered responses to the consultation and will set out next steps in due course, and then goes on to set out its commitment to legislate and talks about the pilots and so on. But the short and the long version is no, the government is not going to make it unlawful for businesses or shops to refuse cash payments. So, as I said, contrary to what you might see in a number of different videos, the phrase, but it's legal tender, doesn't automatically mean the business needs to take the money. Now, I've seen some very interesting videos by some very interesting and creative creators to confirm with the business beforehand that they will take certain coins and even commemorative coins. Now, if the business does accept that, and they do say that they will accept those coins as payment, but then when they get to the store, the member of staff isn't aware of those rules and declines the coin and calls the police, then this would be why that anyone doing that would not be guilty of making off without payment, for example, in the case of fuel, because they hadn't done so dishonestly. Because they've checked beforehand that the shop will accept the coin, they've offered the coin, they've offered the means of payment, And so if the police were to turn up and overzealously arrest them for making off without payment, then they might well be open to a compensation claim, because they would not have made off dishonestly if they've made sure that the store will accept that payment first. So as I said, shops do not have to take your cash payment, but it's always worth checking beforehand. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that businesses should be forced to take cash payments? Or are we moving to a totally cashless and digital society? Interesting debate there. Let me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you next time.